Returning now to that $50 billion natural gas deal with China. And for more, the Federal Trade Minister Simon Crean joins us now from Canberra. Minister, good morning and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Virginia.
Well, China and Australia, we have our differences, but money talks, doesn't it?
Well, trade talks, and trade is a big economic stimulus, and trade underpins most relationships, Virginia, and I think this is another example of the importance of the interrelationship between Australia and China. That's why we've got to build that relationship, we've got to understand our significance to China, we've got to stand tall in that relationship, and we've got to develop it.
When you say we've got to stand tall in that relationship, does there have to be a recognition of who holds the whip hand when it comes to such trade deals, China or Australia?
No, it has to understand the fundamental interdependence. But my point in saying that we need to stand tall is to recognise our fundamental strength in the relationship. China needs us, but we need China. And that's why we've got to do what we can to build not just the relationship and not just the individual deals, but build a framework that's much more conducive to us going forward. But see, understand the significance of this, Virginia. It is the biggest trade deal in Australia's history. But it is a significant, it is the great deal from China in terms of a clean energy source. Look at where the climate change debate is taking us. The demand is going to be for clean energy. Australia has a huge comparative advantage in clean energy. This gas is coming from the North West Shelf and Gorgon, and by the way, a process that will put the carbon back in the ground. So it won't put carbon into the air is technologies that world leading in terms of carbon sequestration. So we're not just selling the gas, we're also selling the technology. It's the service and the smarts of our resource base, of our comparative advantage. But take the gas industry. It's not just the North West Shelf. You look at what we've got now developing through methane and coal seam gas. This is clean coal, because instead of extracting the coal, we're taking the gas out of the coal, a cleaner fuel. Our task is to convince countries such as China, not just that we've got it, but that we are a reliable partner going forward. This is a deal signed decades into the future. And so it is going to underpin the strength of that relationship going forward. Now, what's it mean for us? It means that we've got to continue to develop these resources, but not just as a commodity. Of the fact that we've got a comparative advantage in clean energy. It's why we're pushing so hard in terms of the climate change debate, but we go with credibility. Well, we go with the fact that we are supplying the world clean energy and smart technology.
I just want to question a little further, if I can, though, on the clean energy assertion. When you're talking about the carbon sequestration, are you talking there in relation to the Gorgon field, tried and tested and proven technology, or is this still technology at a speculative stage?
Well, it's certainly being tested.
Right, so it's not actually nailed down yet, is it?
No, but the expectation, because of all of this work that's done before any announcement to develop the field, which came out the other day, because we and the Western Australian government were prepared to underwrite the risk associated with that going forward in the future. That was an important component of our government's intervention in underpinning that technology base. But given that this is an announcement which won't see the gas actually being delivered till 2015, there is still plenty of time to prove this technology. But from all of the evidence so far, this is a very successful testing, and it has been a significant factor in the ability for this product and this contract to be sold. And that's where Australia should just not be heralding this in terms of its relationship with China and the size of it, but what it says to the rest of the world as us, as an active contributor to the climate change debate.
Sure. Well, on that relationship with the rest of the world, if we didn't have China, and you talk about the interdependence of the relationship between the two countries, China needing us and needing our resources. How much do we need China? If we didn't have China, for example, with this particular deal, could we sell this LNG elsewhere?
Well, first is we do have China. And I've been making the point for some time now that China is the place to be. We've got to develop the relationship despite the difficulties from time to time
but
at
do
other
we have
levels.
markets elsewhere that size?
Of course we do. Look at Korea. And what do you think we're doing with Korea now? We're progressing a free trade agreement with them. And I'm going up there in October at ministerial level to advance that agreement. And Korea doesn't take much of our gas at the moment, but it has not got any natural resource. Our task is to convince them that Australia is their reliable customer. Now, don't you think this deal with China is going to send an important signal to Korea? I do. And I'll be making that point when I see them.
I just want to ask you one additional question. It's on a slightly separate subject here this morning, Simon Crean, and that's, as Trade Minister, any national interest concerns that you might have about the potential international sale of the Cubby station, because it seems like that's probably the most likely outcome. Do you have any, and what are they?
Well, obviously, if it is the sale, presumably if there are national interest tests, I haven't thought this through, Virginia, but if there are, then clearly it has to go through the process of the Foreign Investment Review Board, and government will take advice based on that assessment.
Simon Crean, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Virginia.